There are around 7.5 billion people worldwide, 195 countries, 6 to 7,000 languages, and on average a person speaks 1 to 2 languages. With this in mind, almost half of these languages are endangered and dying at fast rates. Although it is impossible for a person to learn 6 to 7,000 languages, not all are thriving in a way that are capable of being saved. As dominant languages such as Mandarin, English, and Spanish start rapidly replacing endangered languages, many communities are trying to fight to preserve their native language. However, those that do not have the resources to do so have to slowly watch them die out. Advocates in favor of funding programs towards language conservation would argue that the importance of saving a language goes further than just the language itself. It gives an insight into the life of an individual and what they have to offer to the world. One culture that is endangered and slowly trying to revive not only their language but their culture is Cherokee. With over 315,000 tribal citizens and being one of the largest Indian tribes, only about 15 to 20,000 people speak the language. With the help of these programs, this number will continue to increase, whereas if nothing is to be done, this number could decrease drastically within the years. With the support of Heroes of Communication, investing the time and money towards preserving the Cherokee language at the expense of $500,000 would be seen as a smart investment by many. Without this language, we lose a piece of the world's knowledge on a way of thinking. The Cherokee language is a part of the world's unique differences and should be invested towards saving this particular branch of dialect. Due to the contribution it signifies to the world's history, cultural identity, language diversity, saving this language is an important aspect to the culture of the Cherokee people, whom are dedicated to keeping the number of Cherokee speakers growing. The Cherokee language is an important aspect to one's culture that deprived people of speaking in their own language in the act of homogenizing Native American tribes. In 1839, the Cherokee Indians, along with other tribes, were driven out of their homeland known as the Trail of Tears. White settlers saw this land and wanted to utilize it for their own good for growing cotton. The tribe was then rounded up by the order of President Andrew Jackson and relocated east of the Mississippi River from Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida to minimal land in Oklahoma. Without choice, innocent people were deprived of speaking their native language and instead forced to learn English. In hope for rebuilding a new lifestyle, not only did they leave behind their language, but a piece of their culture. This caused conflict for the tribe. Those that conformed with the Confederacy were seen as disloyal, whereas those that wanted to fight for their rights, such as speaking their native language, were punished. A big step in preserving this language is acknowledging the goals they have for their community. The Cherokee tribe must be dedicated and work towards the future they want, instead of letting a piece of themselves die out along with their language. By the 1900s, the tribe was self-governed and had made an agreement with the federal government. This agreement authorizes the tribe to plan, conduct, consolidate, and administer programs and receive direct funding to deliver services to tribal members. With these programs help not only the tribe as a whole, but each individual personally that couldn't be done alone. By putting efforts towards bringing back what was once taken away from them, these programs not only helped establish a stronger community for the tribe, but as an individual. Although according to an article of history, the goal of the civilization campaign was to make Native American tribes as much like white Americans as possible by encouraging them to convert to Christianity, learn to speak and read English, and adopt European-style economic practices. Even though we live in an English-speaking world where it is important to know English, many families and cultures were stripped away from their homeland and felt misplaced in this world of change without choice. Because of this, they no longer could practice their religion, prayers, and songs that were spoken in this language slowly started to disappear, and education was a whole different language. By saving this language, it not only requires elders of this tribe to embrace the language of their culture, but to pass it on through generations beyond them. Future generations are what carry on the traditions and culture of the tribe. In efforts of homogenizing the tribe, the children of Cherokee were not only banned from speaking their language within schools, but forced to learn a different language and punished if they did not speak English. Vanessa Walker, a second language learner in charge of cultural preservation, stated in an interview by VOA News,
because we don't use the language in everyday living, because there isn't the transgenerational passing of the language down to children, those appropriate ways of Cherokee living are lost.
Younger generations, a part of the Cherokee culture, are just recently learning the language of Cherokee, resulting in the growth of second language learners. In an interview, Jerry Wolf, a member of the Cherokee Indians, shared his experience growing up as a first language learner.
We're not allowed to speak our language in school. We were banned from it. That come from the federal government. They had their ways of punishing us if we were caught speaking the language.
To be put in a situation where groups of people had no choice but to either accept this outcome or lose a part of their identity caused a huge impact for the culture and future of the tribes. Children were banned from speaking their native tongue in a classroom, and it became less accessible in their lifestyle as dominant languages took over. Schools today now provide programs in order to educate the children within schools, bringing back the importance of the language for the tribe. Another program called Tusalgi Tunzasaldi is a program to help establish and revitalize the language within children's education. Our mission is to promote the revitalization of the Cherokee language while educating children in a safe and cultural environment. Younger generations are part of the Cherokee culture are just recently learning the language of Cherokee, many of which their parents did not grow up learning. Although it is one of the hardest languages to learn due to polysynthetic structure, these programs are to help start off the children young rather than learning it when they are older and becoming more difficult. With the help of preserving these endangered languages, cultures will be reborn one language at a time. If this language is lost, then a way of thinking is lost. Although Cherokee is a difficult language to learn, the importance of saving this language is critical to the group because despite other endangered languages, Cherokee is actually a recorded language. Cherokee is a branch of the Cherokee language, which is the first Native American language and is spoken by about 15,000 people, either first or second language learners. The number of first language learners continue to decrease as ancestors die along with the knowledge they contain of this language, and loses about 18 fluent speakers a year. With programs and dedication, Cherokee are working towards gaining more speakers in and out of its community. Before the 1820s, Cherokee was only a spoken language. It was not until Sequoia, a monolingual Cherokee farmer, invented a syllabary that consists of 85 characters, bringing literacy within schools. He stated, "How many other traditions are out there in the world that we'll never know about because no one recorded them before the language disappeared?" One reason the Cherokee language should be saved is because there are various ways to know the language actually exists and can be utilized as a form of communication. John McWhorter, a linguist, English teacher, and author of multiple books, stated, "If a language dies, a fascinating way of thinking dies along with it." The importance of knowing a second or even third language opens up the mind of different aspects of thinking, yet if a language dies, this intellectual thought will follow. If major companies such as Heroes of Communication invest in preserving the language of Cherokee, then they'll not only be saving the language, but they'll also be saving one's traditions, history, self-identity, and a way of thinking. From a YouTube channel by Seventh Era Productions, powwows were sacred tribal and intertribal gatherings, but today they are more of social and cultural events, especially to help the young to learn and participate in indigenous culture. Powwows are spiritual traditions that are held multiple times a year in celebration of the tribes. They include dancing, prayers, music, and feasts, and are attended by both children and elders in a way of reconnecting with their culture. Language plays an important role for these ceremonies and contributes to the beauty of the music and song held at powwows and tribe gatherings. Without the language, the importance of all traditions and cultural aspects will be lost. From the help of preserving these endangered languages, cultures will be reborn one language at a time. According to William L. Anderson, professor of economics at Frostburg State University, he points out that traditional storytelling in the Cherokee language remains an important part of the living heritage of the Cherokee. Even though there are various languages spoken in America, English is the dominating language. It is necessary to know this language if a person is living in this country by assimilating to the society's norms in order to live a good lifestyle. It has become more accessible for jobs, traveling, interviews, paperwork, the internet, and more. However, learning the language of Cherokee does not take away the knowledge of knowing English, but rather as well as English. Cherokee should be saved because it contributes to each person's way of thinking and the distinction between different cultures in the world. If everyone spoke the same language, practiced the same religion, and had the same lifestyle, then people wouldn't be interested in adventure and exploring different parts of the world. In order to preserve this language, action must first start out at home. Even though English is more accessible for the everyday situations living in America, then second language learners must first figure out a way to combine their languages for a comfortable way of living. Having English become the dominant language in schools does not necessarily take away the identity and culture for the tribe if their beliefs and language are also practiced at home. It is up to the elders and those willing to put in the time and effort to pass on its culture, its history, along with its language to help preserve the language. The language must be practiced at home as well as the outside world. Because it is difficult to incorporate it in the everyday world, there must be commitment from everyone. According to the manager of Cherokee Language Preservation Program, this survey found that no one under 40 years of age was conversational in this language. that 52 out of 300 surveyed spoke the language in their homes, and most of children of fluent speakers do not speak it at all. With this in mind, most people are trying to adjust and living in an English-speaking world that English is becoming their first language. Yet, with all these programs and actions for preserving the language, it is making the people of the tribe engaged in wanting to learn the language of their ancestors. Although it is impossible for a single person to learn 6,000 to 7,000 languages, in order to help save and revitalize endangered languages, we must first start with one language at a time, and soon we will start to reborn a nation of languages again. With having about 15,000 fluent speakers in the Cherokee language and rapidly increasing due to the commitment and hope of the community, the people of the tribe will not have to see their language die out if they keep up the programs and energy they have for this movement. With the help of Heroes of Communication interested in preserving the Cherokee language at a $500,000 budget, would be seen as a smart investment towards saving this particular endangered language. The Cherokee language is a part of the world's unique differences and should be an investment towards saving this particular branch of dialect due to the contribution it signifies towards the world's history, cultural identity, language diversity, and to help keep the number of Cherokee speakers growing. With this community being stripped of their culture and language without choice, they are slowly but surely making their way to saving their language. The Cherokee people have a lot at stake if this language dies. Not only will it be saving a way of communication, but a way to connect individuals through music, festivals, religion, and their culture. This language should not be left alone to die when the last Cherokee-speaking elders die off with the language. It is important to both the individual and history of America to keep the language alive.